ladies and sinners. Welcome back to another Tuesday evening edition of the Sin City Sports Show presented by IESPORTS Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. We're back at it again, folks, every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Excuse us for the holiday off. I was involved with the Veteran Parade. I don't know, man. It was a holiday. I had to take a holiday. Had to do them good deeds in the community. You guys know how it is. I apologize for taking the week off. Football season's right around the corner. Keep you guys posted on that. It's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of things to talk about here on Vegas, or the Sin City Sports Show. Get at us on our Twitter forums, at SinCity_IESR, at Cale_Henderson's my personal. You guys can catch this show and other shows on IESPORTS Radio, on Spreaker Podcast Player, the Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Good Pods, Castbox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, and I'm sorry, I have a hard time pronouncing the last one, Larry. You're going to have to help me out with that one before the next show. Full disclosure. Great to see Larry in the show, man. Hope you're having a great day, man. Hope California's great. Hope you're nice and safe. It's been a beautiful year so far, man. Football's right around the corner. You got to be jacked. I know you got to be as jacked as I am. Which, just so you guys know, Larry B's the man, the myth, the legend, the founder. And that's a great segue because we got to talk about our platform, IESPORTS Radio. For the last 9 years, IESPORTS Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to build tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us on IESPORTS Radio, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. Like us, follow us, get after us. And that is your sponsor read for our platform, which is the best there is. It's a lot of fun, man. I get a lot of freedom. A lot of people would be asked to do a lot of things. Larry's super cool. He gives me a list of things to do. I do them. He respects me for it. We all have a good time. Great relationship. Really happy he asked me to come back about a year and a half ago. It's episode 61 already. Can't believe it. And we're just having a great time. Because let's be real, Vegas is the fastest growing sports market in America right now. It could very well have an MLB team as long as, the A's don't get in their own way. It could very well have an MLB team to go along with their NHL team, their NFL team. I would say at this rate, NBA might become a team in Vegas, or might have a team in Vegas before before Major League Baseball does, even with all of the, leaps and bounds Vegas has basically provided to help the A's get here. It's just been kind of crazy the way that situation's gone down. We can give you guys a quick review on that from 2 weeks ago. If you guys want to check out the full sprint, I even read an article spread on that. If you guys want to get the insight on what's going on with Major League Baseball, I read an article and kind of gave you guys my insight. The A's should be a Vegas team. They're just getting in their own way right now, and Vegas is doing everything they can to make it happen. And I think from a business perspective, the Vegas should not give any more. And I guess we can get into more detail there. Taryn Rodriguez chimes in, one of the best teammate on IESPORTS Radio by far. Taryn Rodriguez says, can't listen because I'm at work, but how about those Las Vegas Ramblers, #1 seed in the American Conference, and will play the Inland Empire Matadors in the quarterfinals of the playoffs to defend their crown, of course. We've been saying this since the jump, man, since the beginning of the season. We thought this team had a really good chance to repeat. Seriously. I think they're a solid team. They're a #1 seed for a reason. They take care of business. They have some close sets. Like, they're not super dominant, but there's got to be something that's said about a team that can really edge out those close sets. What are your thoughts on that, Taryn? Adam Karnick, good evening, Cale. Aces are killing the WNBA. Yeah. It's just straight domination, man. I don't know what to tell you guys. Like, the Aces could repeat. I think there could be a couple teams repeating in Vegas. It wouldn't surprise me if all three teams, because of how good the Vegas Golden Knights were last year. It was just complete team, total team hockey. I've never seen that before. Ted Lasso would have been proud, and he doesn't even know what hockey is. Yeah, I thought it was total team hockey, and I think they could win it again if they keep that same band together. And it looks like they're doing everything they can to do that. The only person they've really given up is O'Reilly or Riley. It's the CP effect. You're gonna have to expand on that, dude. You're gonna have to expand on that a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you. I want to pick up what you're throwing down, and maybe you need to pull the car over so I can catch up. But the CP effect, I don't know, man. You have to give me some. You have to help me out there, dude. Something you know I don't, hockey man, Mr. Neutral Zone. I'm a former Neutral Zone guy. Okay, you can't hold me to that standard anymore. Just saying. Taryn, yeah, I'm in agreement, man. And honestly, I think the Ramblers can repeat. I think the Lady Aces can repeat. To kind of segue to what Adam was saying, I totally think that the Vegas Golden Knights could repeat. Candace Parker effect. She is a beast in the WNBA. You know, she's on the back end of her career by far. Obviously, she's like 38 years old, but she's a rebounding machine. I think she's an amazing relief for Aja Wilson. Right? I 100% believe Aja Wilson is probably the best player in the WNBA right now. People would have a hard time convincing me otherwise. Jackie Young is playing lights out. I mean, they're both averaging more than 19 points a game, and in the WNBA, that's incredible. Kelsey Plum still kicking ass, taking names, distributing the ball. The one thing that's just crazy is like their average points for and points against is like a 20-point difference. That's how dominating the Las Vegas Lady Aces have been so far this season. Yeah, dude, they're right. You know, honestly, they're playing right now. They're quarter one. They're down 13-10 against the Phoenix Mercury, but I do expect the Aces to clean house because, you know, they're 17-2. They're kicking ass, taking names. Far and away the number one team in the Western Conference. Like, I think they have a 7-game lead for that matter. The next best is the Wings, and they're 10-9. Yeah, the Lady Aces are the best team in the WNBA by far. I mean, the Liberty are the top team in the Eastern Conference, and they're 13-4. If this was just one league, right, one standing of all 12 teams, Aces would be far and away the number one, and the number two could probably be blank. You could argue that. That's how well they're playing. That's how well the Lady Aces are playing this year. And dare I say it, man, even with some of the roster changes they had, I agree with you, Adam. I think Candace Parker has been 100% a mainstay. What's helping this team is that leadership she brings, right? I think she's a calming voice in that locker room. She provides leadership. She doesn't have to score a ton of points a game. She just has to worry about getting them rebounds, dude. She gets them rebounds, and this team's in a much better position to win. If she gets 9-10 points a game, good. But what she's doing really well is the rebounds per game, which is about 9-10 rebounds a game. I mean, come on. In the WNBA, that's a big deal. We missed her on the Sparks. The Sparks got a spark plug, pun intended, from the Las Vegas Lady Aces. But the unfortunate thing is you probably got their like fourth best player on the roster. That's how good the Lady Aces are and how they've been able to keep this together. And, you know, Mark Davis can apparently win in at least one sport. Aja Wilson's still killing it, dominating. She could end up being the MVP of this league at this rate, averaging 19.4 points a game as a center. I think that's incredible. Jackie Young's kicking ass, 19.2 points. Here, listen to this, guys. Aja Wilson, Jackie Young, Kelsey Plum. All three players averaging 30 minutes per game. All three players averaging more than 19 points per game. That's nuts. That's incredible. They're averaging 15 more points per game than their opponent. 3 more rebounds per game than their opponent, so they get 3 extra possessions per game. Their field goal percentage is 50%. Their opponent's 42%. 3-point percentage, 38%. Their opponent's 33%. Free throw percentage, 82%. Opponent's 75%. Turnovers per game, 12.7. Opponents 13.5. Again, this is exactly what we're talking about. When you look at turnovers, when you look at rebounds, when you add that up, just those two figures there, you're looking at 4 or 5 extra possessions a game that the Lady Aces are taking advantage of. And when your team is shooting 50% or more, you're not going to have many tight games. It makes a huge difference. I don't know, man. I think they're a repeat. I have no problem saying it. None whatsoever. I think the Lady Aces could repeat. I think the Ramblers repeat. And it wouldn't surprise me if we see the Vegas Golden Knights repeat. Seriously. 3 really good teams and things are smooth sailing. The only thing that could make this Vegas situation better is if the Raiders pulled their head out of their asses. Seriously. Because they're huge. They're one of the biggest sports franchises in the world. Especially in America. Like, they're just so well known and well renowned. And if they could figure out how to win games, Vegas would be unbelievably hyped. Because the NFL is a license to print money and it would make a difference. We're going to go to a quick break, guys. Play some drops from my favorite teammates here at IESPORTS Radio. When we get back, we're going to dive directly into Realignment Week. A little bit of an IESPORTS Radio theme, right? Thought of by the man, the myth, the legend himself, Larry B. and Taryn Rodriguez. Gotta love it. Realignment Week. It's a bunch of what ifs, and I'll have some pictures I can cite for you guys if you want to check them out on the internet. But basically, every league that Vegas has a sports team in, we're going to see what the realignment would look like if they were playing different teams, or maybe, there was a team added to this or that. I'll cite that. I'll kind of give you the scenarios. We'll go into in-depth detail. I think it should be a lot of fun. And I think it's going to cover basically all the Vegas sports teams with the exception of the Lady Aces and the Ramblers, but we've covered them today. So the remainder of the show is going to be on, for the most part, realignment with the Vegas Raiders and the Vegas Golden Knights, and my thoughts on, how they would do against those opponents when we get back here on the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IESPORTS Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No, not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on the defining moment each week here on IESPORTS Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS. The SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IESPORTS Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Callum Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
Everybody, this is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your 5-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Welcome back, ladies and sinners, to the second portion of our show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. This is the Sin City Sports Show, IE Vegas, and you gotta love it. Every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we talk all things Vegas sports, and it's an interesting one today because it's going to be a bit of a curveball, maybe. I don't know. Some of these, they're not out of whack. I'll be honest with you. But I'll say it like this. I like the idea. I love the theme. Realignment Week here on IE Sports Radio, where we talk all things realignment. I'm going to speak on Vegas teams, and we're going to talk about how they would fare in this conference or that conference based on what we see from opponents. When I look at the map, UNLV is not getting any love because they're not on here. If we're being honest, UNLV is not on here, even though they're going to be a Power 5 team. So whoever made this graphic pardon me one moment, please. I have to cite, as Larry talked about, members, read and write stories. What if college football conference made sense by Jake Myers? We're citing this. We're looking at this particular image. I don't see UNLV. No UNLV love. None. So I'm going to do a hypothetical of where I think UNLV would fit in college football. Now that they're going to become a Power 5 program very soon here, I think it will be the Pac-12, to be honest with you, but it wouldn't surprise the Big 12 steps in late, because every conference at this point seems to be desperate to get that 13-14 team and bring in a bit more revenue. Las Vegas, interestingly enough, is like, I think, the 30th ranked media market. It won't be for very long with the way things are brewing, but like when you think about it, that's not very high for one of the busiest cities on earth. I think that's kind of incredible. But yeah, Vegas could be an attractive place. If we talk about conference realignment, I don't think that they'll be part of the Mountain West much longer. I really don't. I think that they'll either be Big 12 or Pac-12. If we were looking at this article, like I said before, cited by Jake Myers, I think that if we're looking, let's see here, they'd probably be in the Western Conference, to be honest. Yeah, the Southern Conference is dominated by a lot of ACC, SEC, which makes sense. I'd say the Pac-12, I'd say they'd throw into that Western Conference with a lot of the Pac-12 teams. Makes the most sense geographically. So looking at that, how would they fare? Well, I mean, they're not a Power 5 team, so they're going to struggle. They're not going to play very well right away. If they had a 4 or 5 years to build up their team and their coach had an opportunity to do so, I think they could be competitive. But let's look through the teams. Could they beat Arizona if they had the ability to build? Yes. Arizona is dog water. They're hot garbage. I don't know what it is about them. They tried the whole Kevin Sumlin thing and it just didn't work out. Arizona State, again, up in the air. Arizona State's better than Arizona, but they're not much better. Cal, up and down. Again, Ivy League school. They might as well be an Ivy League school. Like, they're not Ivy League, but they might as well be with their curriculum. Stanford is another one of those where it's like, I think Cal, Stanford, and Michigan are all kind of on the same standard where you have to have some decent GPAs and SAT scores in order to get to these schools and qualify for scholarships to play sports here. Cal might, because of those, Cal and Stanford, because of those, and they're struggling, I just don't see them being big players in the college football landscape anymore because of their curriculum, because of their requirements to get athletes there. They're just not going to find those Andrew Lucks every day, man. Those dudes are once in a generation. So do I think UNLV could compete against those guys if they had an opportunity to build their program? Yes. We know that they can compete against Fresno State. They play in the same conference. That'd be interesting to see too. I think that they could compete against them. But here we get into the interesting UCLA and USC. Not a chance. Yeah, if we're talking about an upset like Appalachian State type stuff, yeah, maybe, but not a chance. I have to draw the line there, man. We're trying to be realistic here. UNLV would not have a shot against UCLA and USC. Maybe a shot if everybody got hurt. And Lincoln Riley took a day off from his $13 million a year and house that was paid for by the university. I just don't see it happening. How about this? Boise State, they already compete against each other. That's a possibility. But Boise State's always a really good, tough team. BYU. Yes, they can compete with BYU. BYU's up and down. They're a really good program, but they're up and down. Oregon, no. Not a chance. UNLV would get just throttled. Oregon State is, again, up and down. They're that... I don't know, man. Oregon State's the little brother that just gets beat up on a consistent basis. Yeah, they could compete against Oregon State. Utah? Hell no. All right? I'm a big Utah fan. You guys know this. I have great respect for Utah. I have great respect for Kyle Whittingham and what he does on a regular basis. No way you're beating him. Washington? No, I think they're getting better. Washington State? Possibly. They're not always that great. Wazoo's good, and I think they have cycles, but they're not that great. They could get better, especially with USC and UCLA leaving. you could see a bit of an uptick in wins because of those departures, and maybe bringing in teams like UNLV and stuff to the fold. But I mean, yeah, Wazoo's not always impressive. They honestly haven't been very impressive since the Mike Leach days, and we all know what happened there. RIP to the legend, the Pirate. So yeah, I mean that's my college football thoughts when it comes to UNLV. How would they compare against those teams? They'd probably be in the Western Conference because the conferences are showing Eastern Conference, Northern Conference, Midwest Conference, Western Conference, Southern Conference. Yeah, I think they'd be competitive against any of those teams. Yep. I think they'd be competitive against any of those teams but UCLA, USC, and Oregon, and Utah. So those 4 teams. Otherwise, everyone else they could be competitive with. Because everyone else has up and down years or they go through cycles. There's a bunch of teams in the Pac-12 that are like Iowa, right? You have that one season where they have a PUD schedule, but they rip off 11 games because they just play sound football. I think a lot of the teams in the Pac-12 are like that. I think that they need a 4-year cycle to really develop their players because of their, GPA standards, their academic standard, everything like that to get players there. Also, it's just the footprint, man. USC and UCLA just dominate that recruiting footprint for Pac-12. And now Oregon, because Dan Lanning's doing an excellent job up there since he moved over from Georgia. I mean, Oregon's very much relevant. And I don't see Oregon being in the Pac-12 for very long, or the Western Conference if this was realignment week. No way. Like, just out of nowhere. Okay, what if out of nowhere UNLV makes the CFB playoff? Like, just out of nowhere. Undefeated season. They'd be like the Hawaii of this college football playoff with Colt Brennan, who threw for 5,000 yards. They'd get absolutely trolled by a good team. They'd run up against Georgia and you'd see an ambulance basically every other play. If that gives you an answer, Larry. I know that's trolling, but I'm just being realistic. Like, if they just went off and had an undefeated season and made the college football playoff, and they were that first team to get in the college football playoff that was not a Power 5 team, they would probably get Hawaii'd, where they'd play a really good team like Georgia or something and just be stretchered off. Because it's just a different world, man. I wouldn't even have an answer, LOL. That would be insane. Right. But I would think even UNLV fans would be like, okay, we had a great season. We're about to get creamed by one of the top 3 teams. Poor Rebels. Yeah, my bad, man. They're getting better. They have a better facility and all that stuff. We've talked about that for years. I do like Barry Odom. He came over from Missouri. He's the defensive coordinator. He was the defensive coordinator for Missouri, now the head coach. I don't think that the former head coach should have been fired, but stuff happens, man. If you don't win games, you just give boosters excuses to make changes. Period. Let's look over at Major League Baseball. If the A's were to be in Vegas, I think that they would still be in that. Oh, they'd actually probably be in that conference with Arizona, Colorado, the Colorado Rockies, Kansas City Royals, St. Louis, Texas, and the Texas Rangers and the Astros. How would they compete? Oh man, it's the A's. They would have a hell of a lot more money than they do now because they'd be in Vegas. I mean, that is a fact, right? Hypothetically, if the A's don't crap their pants and they do make this transition or relocation happen to Nevada, I don't know. And there's also a possibility that they stay in that California region either. So let's do both real quick. If they're in the California region or the Western region there, which is marked in purple, if you guys get a chance, just cite, pardon me one moment, for this MLB, Divine Right on WordPress. Take a look at conference realignment on the Divine Right on WordPress. You see the A's right next to the San Francisco Giants, my favorite team, Seattle, LA, Dodgers, the Angels, the Padres. I think they get mollywopped by all of them on a consistent basis, even in Vegas, man. Gosh. The only team I can see them really competing with is the Angels, because the Padres have gotten better. The Dodgers are elite. The Giants are always really good, and the Seattle Mariners, I mean, they're up and down, but the A's would just get mollywopped. And I think they'd get mollywopped in that lower, I don't know, what would you call that? The Southwestern Conference, like they used to have back in the day with like MSU or sorry, yeah, all of those Texas teams and Arkansas and everything like that before it became the SEC and the Big 12, and they were disbanded and you had the death penalty. Yeah, SMU. I totally see that. Playing the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks are up and down. They might be able to compete with them. Not really. The Rockies are up and down. Might be able to compete with them. Royals are hot garbage. I'm surprised they're still a Major League Baseball team. The fact that they ever won a World Series is unbelievable. But they got it done, so we got to give them credit. St. Louis is probably the class of this division because of how consistent they've been over the years. But the Rangers are just having themselves a season. And the Astros, they're a former. I don't care what anybody says about the sign stealing crap. You still got to hit the baseball, and it's like one of the hardest things to do in sports. So, whatever, man. This is a tough division. This would be a really tough division. I don't know if this is. I don't know if either one of these are a good situation for the A's. Even if they move to Vegas, it would take them a few years to build a team. I know that their revenue would drastically increase. Their value would drastically increase. They'd go from being like a few $100 million franchise to probably a $2 billion franchise in a few years. It wouldn't take long at all with what Vegas could bring to the table. And I guess that gives us a good segue into kind of the review process and what went down with this. Right now, Major League Baseball, and this is just kind of a short summary, guys. If you guys get a chance, go to our forums. Go to our forums, listen on the Spreaker podcast player, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts. I mean, the likes of those podcast areas. Go to those, revisit the show from 2 weeks ago where I talked about the possibility of the Las Vegas A's. Simply put, Las Vegas has put together an unreal package for them. They're not asking for money on the naming rights of the Las Vegas A's, nothing. Like, they're leasing them basically the land so that way they can make a profit really early. They're giving them roughly, I mean, it's almost basically what Vegas is giving up is $500 million worth of value, if that makes sense, with all of the things they're moving around to make this happen, this relocation happen, and the A's still aren't taking the deal. They're not taking the deal because the ownership is stupid. The ownership thinks that Las Vegas should just give them $500 million cash and all the amenities that they're trying to include. And that is absolute BS. If I'm Las Vegas, I wouldn't do that because they're not the same as the Raiders. The Raiders got $750 million because they're one of the most storied franchises in sports, especially in America. And they're part of the best money-making league, period. Larry says, just play on UNLV field. I mean, could it be worse? Their old one too, like just turned into a baseball stadium. UNLV used to have an old grass field outside before moving indoors, believe it or not, and they'd have to play at like 9 o'clock every game because it was hot as hell. Adam Karnick chimed in earlier. Portillo's is better than In-N-Out, dude. What is with this cryptic language today? The CP effect, Portillo's. What is Portillo's? I'm from Lincoln, Nebraska, man. What is a Portillo's? In-N-Out I've never had before. Full disclosure. They don't have that here in Nebraska. We have Runza, which is like one of the best restaurants on earth. Fast food restaurants. They have one of the best burgers. They basically have a bread pocket that's full of hamburger meat, seasoned with salt, pepper, garlic powder, and like some cooked cabbage in there and stuff like that. But they call it a Runza. You could add cheese, other sauces. It's amazing. It's basically like a gourmet hot pocket. That's what this restaurant is, and it's like world famous, dude. If you guys get a chance, check out Runza restaurants on YouTube. I'm not trying to advertise them. I'm just telling you, like, Runza is better than In-N-Out. I think I've never had In-N-Out, but I can tell you right now, Runza has some of the best fast food burgers I've ever had. And I've had a lot of fast food burgers. It's amazing, and it's all homemade, dude. They get their stuff in fresh, never frozen. I mean, it's legit. You guys are ever in Nebraska, if you guys are ever in Lincoln, Nebraska for sure, because that's where it originated, stop by a Runza. You will not be sorry. Get a Runza, get their double McFatty. I call it a double cheese. It's a double cheeseburger, but I call it a double McFatty. You guys won't regret it at all. And I promise you, Nebraska is a center for corn and beef. We know what we're talking about when it comes to burgers. When we know what we're talking about when it comes to steak. The only other state I could tell you should really be able to compete with us in those opinions is Texas because of their barbecue prowess. Just saying. We went off on a tangent there, but I had to. It's Adam's fault. Sorry, Larry. It's Adam's fault. He brought up Portillo's and In-N-Out on my show. Unbelievable. Especially when he's never had a Runza. And I don't think you've ever had a Runza too. So if you're ever in Nebraska, you hit me up. I'll host you and I will take you out to Runza. You'll love it. There's like a YouTube video out there of a guy that reacted to eating Runza. He said it was like the best restaurant he's ever eaten, is a fast food restaurant he's ever eaten in his life. Nebraskans are the nicest people. The ranch was amazing. And honestly, like, he just talked about how good the food was. Make sure you guys check that out. Runza review or whatever it is. Like, there was a guy that traveled from New Jersey to try it. It's that good. Back to Sin City Sports. Sorry, tangent. Had to talk about fast food. Had to talk about my love for food in general. He said, sign me up. He said, a bread pocket full of hamburger meat? You ain't lying, dude. Seasoned hamburger meat. And it's fire. Fire. I'm telling you, dude. You can add cheese to it, American cheese. It melts in there as the pocket closes up. I mean, it's like, legit, it's a gourmet Hot Pocket. Like, Hot Pockets aren't sold very well in Nebraska because we have Runzas. What's up, Davidson? How's it going, man? How's the NBA looking, brother? He said, I want one of those bread pockets. I'm telling you, man, you ever make your way here to Lincoln, Nebraska, I'll take you out. We got some good barbecue here, too. I got probably the best barbecue. You should have seen some of the huli chicken I made, dude. Made it tonight. Marinated it and everything overnight. Threw it on the grill. Marinated it while I was grilling. Ooh, boy. Yeah, man, I listen to your show. I get back at it. You usually get on at a time where I'm like at practice or doing football things, so I make sure I listen to your show. You guys are doing a great job over there covering the NBA for IESPORTS Radio. Larry said, I want one of those bread pockets. Man, do you ever? And you want to try their double McFatties too, their double cheeseburgers. It just hits different. You know what? I don't know if I can argue with that. I think Nebraska steaks would beat Bama barbecue. I know that because it's like straight up farm to table. But I get you with that Nebraska barbecue. Our stuff is a lot like Kansas City because it's a Midwestern thing. A lot of brown sugar. Whereas, like, I think the South, ton of vinegar. Or Carolinas, maybe. I could be wrong. Tell me what your thoughts are on that, Davidson. I love Carolina barbecue. I love the South barbecue. One of my favorite places I ever ate was Letha's in Jackson, Mississippi, man. It looked like a trailer. You walk in there, the lady would take your order by memory, and if she messed up any of your dishes, you'd get the dish for free or the entree for free. She never messed up. She had like 40 tables in there. She was the only server. It was incredible. Oh yeah, no, you can't beat. That's why Omaha Steaks is here, bro. Like, everything is grown farm to table here, man. You could throw a rock and hit a cow here in Nebraska. You could throw a rock and hit a corn stalk, bro. It's crazy. Real life. But yeah, that's my coverage on the A's, man. I don't know. I think the A's are just a trash franchise right now. Like, there's a reason why Moneyball basically emphasized that there's the really good teams, the rich teams, there's poor teams, there's a pile of shias, yeah, you get what I'm saying, and then there's the A's, right? They're that bad. And they're not helping their value because they're just not getting something done with Vegas, who is basically just gift wrapping them value. And they'll make the money back in no time. The billionaire owner just has to kind of stomach it a bit and take a loss. I think the NBA in Vegas would be amazing, Larry. I think it'd be huge. Look at what the WNBA is doing. They're winning a lot of games. You're telling me that they couldn't... I know that the NBA in Vegas would sell out T-Mobile Arena. Straight up. WNBA is WNBA. It is what it is. It's just not as marketable. But the NBA in Vegas, they'd sell out T-Mobile Arena. For sure. What would the name be? Right? What would the name be? The Vegas Gamblers? How about the Vegas Mafia? That'd be different, huh? Something around those lines. Godfather Part 4. Just kidding. But seriously, what would the Vegas NBA team be named? You got to be creative with it too. It can't be like the Miners or some crap like that. Loan Sharks? That's messed up. I don't know. That's it. That brings up an interesting topic, dude. Really. We're going to go to break, guys. When we get back, we're going to talk the Raiders and their conference realignment. And do we have hope? Because it looks like the rumors might be true. Josh Jacobs could be released by the Raiders because they just can't seem to come up with an idea, and they're going to pull the franchise tag. They're going to pull the franchise tag because they want to risk playing it. He doesn't show up. They're doing exactly what I told you guys for months when we get back here on the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IESPORTS Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Lava.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
Welcome back, ladies and sinners, to the Sin City Sports Show presented by IESPORTS Radio. We're going to part 3 of the show. I promised Lear I'd get better at getting at least a few more drops in. That way we can kind of split up the show a little bit. I think I did a good job tonight. I'm going to pat myself on the back. We're back from a 1-week hiatus because of the 4th of July. We've been rolling. We talked about the Lady Aces, the Las Vegas Ramblers. We've talked about realignment week and where we think certain teams, how they would fare in specific divisions based on the sports. Again, UNLV got no love because they're not a Power 5 team, but they will be soon. Let's be honest. They will be soon. Pretty soon, Pac-12 will be desperate. We talked about the A's and their inability to do good business things and sign something with Vegas. So we had 2 different scenarios, and either way, they get mollywopped most often. We talked about the Vegas Golden Knights. Actually, we didn't talk about them. I will say we'll touch base on them real quick. Vegas would absolutely do the same thing they've been doing now because their division didn't change at all. Like, they still play the Kings, Ducks, and I think it was the Arizona Coyotes or something like that. And I think the only one that would really put up a fight, the Sharks, the Ducks, and the Arizona Sharks, Ducks, and the Kings were the 3 teams that they had in their division. And the only team that I think would really give them a fight right now, the reality is the Kings. Like, the Kings were a really good team. They were a playoff team. But if we're being honest, like, there's just no chance. They win that division handily, and they have a home playoff game or a home deal. And you guys can take a look at the GameHoss.com for that realignment. It's interesting. I think that they added an additional team too. I'd have to take a look at that picture. But we're moving on to more Vegas. We're going to talk about the Raiders. The realignment. When you look at the realignment, when you cite NFL map, is assetalley.com. When you cite that map and you look at the realignment, you have the Raiders in a division with the San Francisco 49ers, the Los Angeles Rams, with the old logo, I should add, and the Seattle Seahawks. How do we think they'd fare there? Good God, man. The Raiders are probably the worst team in that division. We have a lot of... Listen, guys, we have Pro Bowlers at receiver. We have Pro Bowlers at defensive end. We have a really good, I think we have a really good young up-and-coming line with Colton Miller and Dylan Parham. But the reality is... And Josh Jacobs, and we'll talk about him in a bit. You have a stud there. I think that there's really good players on this football team, but they wouldn't stack up well against the San Francisco 49ers. They didn't stack up well with a backup quarterback. I mean, I guess it was a close game, but I think the Niners slept on us, to be honest with you. And I think Josh McDaniels was coaching out of his ass because of the whole Derek Carr benching thing. I don't think we have a shot against San Francisco, even with the star power we have. I think they bludgeon us to death, man. And their defense, especially if they're healthy, oh man, that defense would just murder our line. The Los Angeles Rams, that one's a toss-up. I think we almost beat them last year, but Matt Stafford wasn't playing. Baker Mayfield was. And Josh McDaniels still couldn't lead a team to beat a Baker Mayfield team that only had him for 3 days. Like, he literally had 3 days of practice with the LA Rams, and somehow they still beat us. That's how pathetic Josh McDaniels and his coaching staff is, but nobody talks about that, by the way. Los Angeles Rams will have Matt Stafford back. If he's fully healthy, I truly believe the Los Angeles Rams will still be a competitive team. Do I think they're better than the Niners? No. I don't know if the Rams are better than the Seahawks at this point, because the Seahawks really did get a lot better. I mean, with Jackson Smith and Jigba, I'm just saying, man. Adding him to that already talented receiving core of Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, I don't know. Geno's probably going to eat this year. And the best thing is, the Seahawks haven't been shying away from getting offensive linemen recently. They're drafting well with the offensive line. The Seahawks could be they were a surprise team last year. I think they won 8-9 games or something like that. But this year, it wouldn't surprise me if like they are that sleeper team in the NFC West. Right? And I think that's what the Raiders would be realigned to here is the NFC West. They call it the Pacific Division. Yeah, I agree. Davidson, he said Rams and Seahawks might be in the same boat. I think they're the same type of team. I really do. Matt Stafford's better than Geno Smith. I truly believe that. I think the Seahawks might be more talented than the Rams now. I mean, the Rams have better top-end players. Like, Aaron Donald is just a god, man. He's a demigod. Like, he might be the best player in all of the NFL, period. That's how talented Aaron Donald is. But besides him, I guess I'd put Matt Stafford, but, the Seahawks have a really good team. Otherwise, they're loaded. Their receiving core is nuts. They have a couple good backs. Their offensive line's getting better. I don't know, man. I put them in the same boat. I get what you're saying, Davidson, but the Seahawks are a better team. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if the division ends up like this. San Francisco, Seattle, Los Angeles, and Arizona. Like, realistically. If we were looking at this division, which is they call the Pacific Division, not the NFC West, I would probably go San Francisco, Seattle, Los Angeles Rams, and then the Raiders. And I think the Raiders and the Rams are in a lot of the same position. The problem is the Raiders' offensive line is so dog crap that I just don't, with a healthy Aaron Donald, and that's the other thing that we didn't see last year. Aaron Donald wasn't playing the Raiders when the Raiders played at the Rams. The Rams were already out of playoff contention, and he was dealing with some injuries. They were smart not playing him. That's another thing we don't talk about. Game was way too close for comfort. That's how poor of a job Josh McDaniels and his staff did at coaching. And yeah, I think they'd be last in this division too. I'm a bit worried about the realism of the AFC West right now. The Raiders are fighting for third place. Seriously. We don't know the health status of Jimmy G. The defense really didn't get that much better. Did we get a better pass rusher? Yes, but he's going to be more situational because he's a rookie. And there's no way this regime starts a $17 million a year Chandler Jones. There's no way they bench a $17 million a year Chandler Jones over the first round pick Tyree Wilson. There's just no way it happens. No way. We have a defensive backfield that nobody can name any players. Unless you're me, nobody can name any players. And Larry, this is something we got to talk about. Josh Jacobs is likely gone. He's not gone yet, but listen, Hondo Carpenter is probably the closest insider to all Raiders news. And although I don't like his wishy-washy behavior because he doesn't want to lose connections with this new regime, because I think this new regime is hot and cold. The reality is Josh Jacobs, and we've talked about this for months. I know you can vouch because you've listened to my shows. I've said this for months. I said this last year when he was on his deal, his 1-year deal or his prove it deal. I didn't think Josh Jacobs would be back on this team this year. There's still a possibility it happens, but I'm telling you right now, I'm not surprised at all. And if you were listening to the show, if anybody's been listening to the show, I've been telling you exactly what this regime was going to do. They come from the New England background, and I know people hate to hear this, but that's the reality. That's what Mark Davis went for. They wanted proven winners, proven scouts. That's something New England's been able to do for years. I can't name half the players on their roster. I can't name half of their top players on their roster, but they usually find ways to be relevant because Bill Belichick just knows how to find guys that fit their system. As long as Matt Patricia, a defensive coordinator, isn't calling offensive plays, they were probably a contender last year. Straight up. But the reality is this. This regime is a lot like the New England regime. They do not value running backs the same way other teams do. As a matter of fact, the entire league doesn't value running backs the same way anymore. Even though running the football really dictates how good your football team is, it can. It makes a huge difference. Josh Jacobs just isn't seen that way. And honestly, Josh Jacobs is being disrespected because this offensive line was ranked 9th in the league in rushing, but it was because Josh Jacobs had his rushing leader year. He was the NFL rushing leader last year. And they don't want to pay him the franchise tag. They're legitimately going to remove the franchise tag, probably use it on somebody we don't agree with, and let Josh Jacobs walk in free agency. Someone is going to get a hell of a back if they come out and pay him. And watch that dude decide, I want to go play for a winning team. Great. Right? Watch him go to the Saints with Derek Carr. If you love Derek Carr that much, I mean, we'd know. If you like Derek Carr a lot, watch him go there with Alvin Kamara and Jamal Williams. You don't think Josh Jacobs wouldn't eat behind that big, massive offensive line? Sheesh, man. Watch Josh Jacobs go to a Southern team. Watch him go to Miami. They need a run. They could use a running back. Watch him go to Miami. Watch him go to the Bills. Josh Jacobs doesn't matter what team he goes to, they're going to get better. He was the rushing leader last year. He'd probably be the best running back in the league no matter where he goes. Right now. And the Raiders are going to let him walk because it's just the NFL business, man. They would rather have 3 running backs that could tote the rock and get nearly 1,000 yards than one really, really good running back. That's just the nature of the business in today's running back world. Straight up. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody. That's just the realism of it all. Running backs are not valued the way they used to be. And I don't think Josh Jacobs will be on the roster. And Hondo Carpenter, who's probably the best insider we have in Vegas when it comes to the Raiders, he believes that Vegas has already made the decision that they are going to remove the franchise tag. I mean, unless Ziegler just abruptly changes his mind and decides to give the guy more than $10 million a year, which I don't think is happening. I don't think that's going to be a thing. The Raiders are going to rescind the franchise tag and let the NFL's rushing leader last year walk in free agency. And I just can't. First, Derek Carr, the scapegoat, right? Now Josh Jacobs. I can't. And then now it's well known, and Hondo Carpenter's even talked about this. Davante Adams is not happy, and I don't think this will help either. It wouldn't surprise me, and I'm saying this as a bold prediction. I don't know if it'll happen because the Raiders would be stupid to do it, but they're stupid letting Josh Jacobs go too, right? I like Zamir White, but he's no Josh Jacobs yet. Excited to see him run this year, but he's no Josh Jacobs yet. Bold prediction. Davante Adams is not on the roster this year, week 1 either. I don't think he's happy. I think he wants to be traded. And it sounds like the trade talks, according to articles online, would be a first and a third. I think any team right now with the way Davante Adams played last year, considering the horrible play calling, I think any team would still be willing to do that if they were in a position to win now. Like, imagine the Titans just going out and getting Davante Adams. Imagine the Saints doing it. Trading Michael Thomas and getting Davante Adams. You still upgraded. Big time. I'm just saying, man. Davante Adams is still the best receiver in the league. I don't see him being on the Raiders at week 1. Why would he want to be a part of this team right now? Letting the best running back we've seen in over a decade walk. Letting the best quarterback we've had in over a decade walk. Haven't had a winning season in a while. Well, I guess the 10-7 season under Rich Bisaccia and John Gruden. We're a laughing stock right now. And this is so Raiders to let Josh Jacobs just walk like this without getting value in return. It'd be such a Raiders thing to do. And it pisses me off, man. Watch us trade away Davante Adams too. Would we get a first and a third? Yes. I think that's great. I think that's great value. Would it be worth it to let go of the best receiver in the league in his prime? No. That'd be such a Raiders thing to do. Just like the Josh Jacobs thing. But that's what we come to expect. That's reality. This is the Sin City Sports Show presented by IESPORTS Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. You guys can catch us every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here on Spreaker Radio, the podcast, iHeartRadio, Apple Pods. On top of that, Amazon Music, Google Pods, Spotify. We're all over the place, man. Listen to our show, like, comment, follow all the IE Sports Radio platforms. Give us love. And as always, folks, have a great night. Have a great week. Love, peace, and hair grease.